This video is brought to you by patreon.com/worsttake. Get access to exclusive live streams and Discord servers, on-screen shoutouts, and early access to some videos when you join now. Help make sure that we can continue to make content like this by supporting the Patreon. Links are in the description down below. Well, I come bearing good news. I come bearing what I hope to be good conversation. And I come bearing, unfortunately, some bad news. So let's get to the bad news first. And this one kind of came out of nowhere. Now, I do think that this isn't, well, this is bad. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. It's not good news at all. And the news is that Dawand Jones is on IR. His season's done. Whatever happened to him in practice, he needs surgery for his knee. His season's done. Obviously, you worry about a guy that large getting knee surgery. We'll see if he's close to the same athlete that he was his rookie year. He should be. It doesn't seem like a major knee surgery. It doesn't seem like he had like an ACL tear. It just seems like a sprain or something that they just want to get cleaned up, or a scope or something that they want to get cleaned up, and they're going to play it safe. Now, this obviously stinks. Dawand Jones was a very good player. You're down. Well, you don't know the status of Ethan Posick for this week. And you're already down Jed Wills. Not in a great spot if you're the Cleveland Browns on that offensive line. Clearly hurts to not have Dawand Jones. Something we thought would just be a week. He'd be back. Makes you worried about Denzel Ward, if this is going to be a similar situation, since he kind of had a similar kind of setback thing go on with him. But we'll see, and we'll report that. Well, not report, but we'll get that out whenever I hear word of it, or whenever anybody hears word of it. But that's the news on Dawand Jones. Now, if you're looking for a little bit of a silver lining here, at least he went out before you had to play Pittsburgh. Well, after you play Pittsburgh, right? Because the main guy that you really, really, really needed Dawand Jones for was TJ Watt. Now, you're still going up against some decent edge rushers to end the season. You got Will Anderson in Houston, who's going to be a left edge, so not really on the side of James Hudson. You got that Jets defensive line. And then you have Trey Henderson and Sam Hubbard. So tough test for this Browns offensive line, but not necessarily the toughest test of the season. So you do have that going for you. And also, I think the other thing is, I think this would have been a bigger blow if we had Deshaun Watson still healthy. The reason I think this would have been a bigger blow if you had Deshaun Watson healthy is because the style of football and the style of quarterback that Deshaun Watson plays with kind of requires that you have better tackle play. The way that all of the rest of the Browns available quarterbacks have play, they get rid of the ball quickly. They're not really threats to take a ton of sacks, right? We know that for Joe Flacco. He's been that way his whole career, and we saw it with DTR whenever he's been in there. So whoever has to play, whether it be the starter or the backup, you are in a fine enough position to get away with less than optimal tackle position. Who knows? It might actually help you in the run game, because I do think James Hudson's a little bit better in the run game than Dawand Jones, just because James Hudson's been in the offense a little bit longer. He's been here since 2020 or something like that, 2021 at least. So you might get a little bit of a benefit there, and you're not axing your tackles to really pass pro. Case in point, we haven't talked about Garyon Christian like all day. He's not playing like particularly well, but it just doesn't matter because Joe Flacco gets rid of that ball super quick, and it's just not going to matter as much. Still going to matter, not going to matter as much. Let me be very clear on that. I don't want people to think I think Dawand Jones and James Hudson are the same thing. And Lord knows I don't need more miscommunication. So that's Dawand Jones. He's out for the year. Some good news is that the Browns officially assigned, and this is the first time since Sunday I've had the time to talk about it, Grant Delpit's extension. Yes, the Browns extended Grant Delpit, I believe, 3 years, $23 million guaranteed, $36 million over the three, puts him at like the 10th or 11th safety in the NFL. So it's a nice, team-friendly, long-term deal for Grant Delpit. I think this is a absolute great signing. Grant has been a great player for this Browns. He's a critical piece to the Browns' run defense. I truly believe that. I also think that Grant's just a critical piece to the Browns' defense. Like, I think he is the Swiss Army knife that allows you to do so many different things on defense. If you need to play man, but you still want to be worried about like the run threat, you can have Grant Delpit in there because he's still a big enough player to kind of stop the run too as well. He can be an extra linebacker in there. He is basically what you hoped John Johnson to be, but better. And also, we ain't thought about a tight end since we started putting Grant in the right spots. So if that's what it takes to not have to worry about tight ends anymore, then Grant's the guy for it. Played really well after getting that contract on Sunday. I expect more really good things from my man, Grant Delpit. Just overall, pretty good contract. I'm not upset at it. As all contracts, what you feel the day the contract gets signed is probably the most irrelevant thought you're going to have about that contract. It really matters what you feel at the end of that contract, right? Like that's usually when contracts are judged, is at the end of them. But on the onset at the beginning, I don't feel like that contract was crazy for Grant Delpit. And I think it's nice to see the Browns continue to keep their good young players. Now, what does that mean for JOK? What does that mean for all these other players? One thing I've learned with covering the Browns for the last 5 years is the salary cap just isn't something to be made assumptions on. So if you're out here assuming that signing Grant Delpit costs you JOK, I would tell you to stop that. We don't know enough about this salary cap to be able to assume things safely. So me personally, I'm just going to go and take it as it goes. If they sign JOK, if they sign all these other players, we'll see. We'll see who they keep, who they don't. I think the Grant Delpit signing doesn't really have much bearing on either of that. This team seems to be very good with managing money. And they've done a good job moving around money, even with that Deshaun Watson contract. And I think they'll continue to do a good job moving around money. All right. Last thing I wanted to talk about today is something that, I'm not going to lie, has kind of bothered me about the way that people have tried to use Joe Flacco's success to tear down other Cleveland Browns quarterbacks. I don't like it. And I don't like it because, one, I don't like what it makes people do to Joe Flacco. First of all, I think it's super unfair to Joe Flacco to use him like this. I don't think Joe Flacco would appreciate people using him like this, by the way. And I think it's just super individualistic and kind of forgets that this is a team at the end of the day. And what I mean is, I've seen a lot of people use Joe Flacco's success as a hit on guys like PJ Walker, DTR, and Deshaun Watson. And look, I'm thrilled that Joe Flacco is playing well. 5 touchdowns in 2 games, throwing the ball 300 yards. I'm thrilled. But that doesn't mean that you use that success to shit on other people who were critical in building the record that allows Joe Flacco to be in the position to have that success. It really doesn't. And I don't love the disrespect that people have felt free about when all 4 of these quarterbacks, whether you think they're good quarterbacks or not, I don't give a shit. We're not talking about what you think about the quarterbacks. We're talking about what these quarterbacks have objectively done this year. All 4 of those quarterbacks have made big time throws that have led directly to wins this season, have stepped up in big moments, in big spots this season. And that demands respect. If you like this team, you're not going to disrespect players who are critical like that. You just aren't. If you like your agendas, if you like your takes more than you like the team, you'll do shit like that. But if you like the team, you're not going to try to disrespect a player who was critical to some wins just so you can pump up another player who was critical to some wins. All four of these quarterbacks made big plays to help this team win games this season. They're all a part of success. If the Browns somehow find a way to win a championship, all four of these quarterbacks are getting rings, and all four of those rings are deserved. There is no need or real positive outcome that can happen for any of these quarterbacks by pitting them up against against each other. There's just no good outcome. You're not doing anything good for any of these guys. You really aren't. They don't appreciate it. None of these guys appreciate if you pit one against the other. Nobody does. I promise you that. And you can say what you want about PJ Walker. He made some big time throws against San Francisco. They helped you win that game. And he led a game-winning drive versus not the Arizona Cardinals, versus the Indianapolis Colts. Say what you want about Deshaun Watson. You were 4-1 in games he started. By the way, PJ Walker, you were 2-1 in games he started. Beat 2 playoff teams with PJ Walker at the helm. Yeah, he's not the greatest quarterback in the world, but the man won you 2 games versus 2 playoff teams, one on the road where he led a game-winning touchdown drive, and the other one against the San Francisco freaking Niners. Show some respect if you respect the team instead of your stupid, silly, goofy take nobody care about. Deshaun Watson, say what you want about him, 4-1 this season, was super clutch in Baltimore. Your toughest game that you played this season. The most unwinnable game. I think we all felt like that was a not very winnable game for the Browns coming into it, especially the way the game started. Came back down from 14, won that game while throwing with a broken shoulder and a high ankle sprain. Got to show respect to that. And keep it a buck. Your point differential ain't looked the same since Deshaun Watson has come out. You were winning games in the 20s with Deshaun Watson at quarterback. You ain't won a game close to 20 yet. So let's keep it a buck. That point differential ain't nowhere near the same. DTR, he had a game-winning drive against Pittsburgh, man. We usually love guys who have game-winning drives versus Pittsburgh. And he was on his way to another one against Denver. Unfortunately, takes a bad hit, gets a concussion. They don't win that game. But he played well when he was asked to step up. And he was asked to step up in some tough moments. And then Joe Flacco played better than anybody's expected. You should be thrilled with what you've gotten out of all 4 of these quarterbacks. You've gotten the best case scenario out of all 4 of these quarterbacks. 2-1 with PJ Walker against that schedule? Oh, best case scenario. You almost went 3-0 with PJ Walker. If Jamal Adams doesn't headbutt a football, you might have gone 3-0 with PJ Walker. Deshaun Watson, enough said about that. You've looked your best as a team when he was at quarterback. DTR stepped in at a tough spot, locker room down. Deshaun Watson went out. He had to step in that next week and play against a division rival, the Pittsburgh Steelers of all division rivals. Stepped in, played a good game, made the game-winning drive. Joe Flacco came in off the street, 2-3 weeks of prep, playing some of the best football he's played in 5 years. There's no reason to pit any of these guys against each other. And if you feel the need to do that because you want to prove some other point, you should be ashamed of yourself. Because at that point, you're not rooting for the Browns. You're rooting for yourself. And that's shameful. That really is. That's shameful and that's garbage, in my opinion. If Joe Flacco has a good game and you think to yourself, oh, how can I make this a bad Deshaun Watson stat? You don't care about the team. You don't care about the team. You just care about yourself if that's your first instinct. And you need to realize that and check that. And if you don't like me calling that out, I don't give a shit. Check it. Look in the mirror. Nobody else around you want to tell you that. I'll tell you it. Check yourself if that was your first instinct. You should be ashamed of yourself. All 4 of these quarterbacks stepped up in big moments, in specific moments, in order to help you get to where you are right now. You don't get to 8-5 without all 4 of these guys stepping up. Point blank, period. So stop this bullshit. We can celebrate Joe Flacco without tearing down Deshaun Watson. We can celebrate Joe Flacco without tearing down DTR. We can celebrate Joe Flacco without tearing down PJ Walker. Y'all don't got to do this. It's a choice to do this. Joe Flacco stepping up right now, it's his turn. But when it was those other 3 quarterbacks' turn, guess what? They stepped up. That's why the team's 8-5. So instead of pitting them against each other, appreciate the cumulative effort that they've done to keep this season afloat. I'm tired of this bullshit, man. I'm really tired of this bullshit. Every time there's a quarterback, there's a section of fans that decide that that's going to be the quarterback that they only care about, and they don't care about nothing else about the team, just the quarterback. I'm so tired of this bullshit. Either you root for the Browns or you don't. But this quarterback rooting shit, I'm tired of it. I'm so tired of it. I don't care if you were a Baker fan. Are you a Browns fan? Yes or no? Because if 6 means more to you than the Browns, then just stop. If 15 means more to you than the Browns, stop. If 4 means more to you than the Browns, just stop. If 17 means more to you than the Cleveland Browns, just stop. I don't care. Are you a Browns fan or are you rooting for a quarterback? Because you don't need to cosplay as a Browns fan if you're just rooting for a quarterback. I'm tired of the bullshit. Root for the team, man. Instead, we putting guys against each other for no reason. We out here shitting on guys who stepped up when their number was called for no reason. Just being miserable about it. Absolutely don't fuck with it. And if you're doing it, acknowledge it and change it. Because it's gross. It's gross and it's goofy. That's my thoughts on that whole thing. Hopefully, I only had to speak to a few people, but I feel like that kind of stuff going on, that's the stuff that has made the Browns not as fun to talk about because people just want to do shit like that. And it ain't just Deshaun Watson, right? People gonna blame it on Deshaun Watson being polarizing, whatever people thinking about Deshaun Watson. I really don't care if you like Deshaun Watson as a person or not. Could care less. I don't think much of him as a person off the field. But when it comes to like talking about ball dog, either you rooting for the Browns or you not, man. We're not rooting for quarterbacks. We're not rooting for jersey numbers. We're rooting for the team, man. And guess what, man? All 4 of those quarterbacks, they stepped up when their number was called. That deserves some respect. We shouldn't be trying to do this. And anybody who's trying to do this, they're showing the true colors. They rooting for themselves. And it's tiring. It's so tiring. And I wish we can move past it. I hope we can move past it. Because the sad thing is, when Browns fans aren't doing this kind of garbage, this is a fun, loving community. This is an enriching community. This is one of the best football communities to be a part of, if not the best, when we're not doing stuff like this. And in order to make sure stuff like this doesn't become the norm, people got to be willing to call it out. I'm tired of all this my quarterback, no, your quarterback, even though they on the same team, I'm tired of it. Root for the Browns, man. I'm rooting for whoever's starting that quarterback. That's who I'm rooting for. And right now it's 15, so I'm rooting for 15. Okay? That's who I root for. I root for the starter. Whoever's starting, I'm rooting for them. Any position, I want them to succeed because I want the Browns to win. I don't want my takes to win. I could care less if one of my takes win. Could give a shit less. I wish I could, I hope I'm 100% wrong about this whole Joe Flacco age stuff and it doesn't turn out. Everybody's like, that age like milk, Quincy. Oh, yeah, I would love it because that means the Browns won a bunch of games. Would love it. We really just got to figure out who we rooting for, man. Are you rooting for yourself? Or are you rooting for the Browns? But you got to pick one. Rooting for yourself, that's cool. Just don't cosplay as one. Don't try to act like you care about the team as a whole when you just care about yourself and your takes. That's my thoughts, man. That's just some behavior I saw that I'm kind of just sick of. Sorry if this was a little bit more direct than I usually am, but I'm truly just sick of this garbage. I really am. But I understand that that's the minority of Browns fans and not the majority, but it has to be addressed because they're ruining it for everybody else. Everybody else just want to enjoy a win, and then these assholes come out of nowhere doing this kind of bullshit. And it just makes everybody else miserable, and that miserableness is contagious, and I don't like it. I don't like what it's done to the community, what this kind of bullshit has, and I think it needs to be called out. That's my thoughts. Let me know what you think in the comment section down below. Y'all have a great day. Have a good